And it's another trading day right here in Lagos, Nigeria. We see the December trading is moving on, just like we expected. But will that Santa rally come? We'll definitely find out. Here's what's coming up on the show. Well, Ghana elections in focus as we get an outlook for the economy on Mahama's election victory. And Egypt's unemployment rate gets a significant decline to 5.6%. Plus, Zambia signs a debt revamp deal with France, 4 years in the making. And it's great to have you join us. I'm Ladi Williams. Let's get a quick check on the markets now. We see the markets are moving along just right. Gold prices have gained as investors. They're waiting U.S. inflation data due this week for clues on the Federal Reserve's next monetary policy moves. That's what investors just want to know. What next? Is it going to be a rate cut, 25 basis points as expected, or maybe a surprise? And we see spot gold up 0.5%. U.S. gold futures, $2,666 per ounce. Spot silver, 0.4%, all green. But we see a big move at palladium there, $963 per ounce. Also a bigger move up, 0.7%. Let's get a check on what's playing out with oil. We'll see oil prices were mixed in early trade today, and we're still seeing big moves up for Brent crude, $71.85 a barrel, up 1.03%. WTI grade, that's the U.S. grade, $68.01. We'll see if it gets back that $70 level. We'll see both benchmarks were down about 2.5% last week, while WTI saw a drop of 1.2% as analysts projected a supply surplus next year on weak demand despite an OPEC Plus decision to delay output hikes. So all eyes still on these commodities to see if oil stays bullish going forward. All right, to other stories now. Stakeholders in the integrated marketing communications sector and seasoned analysts converged at the Oriental Hotel earlier this month to discuss rebuilding consumer confidence as macroeconomic headwinds continue to weigh on consumer disposable income. Keynote speaker at the event, Otumba Bimbo Ashiru, chairman of a dual group of companies, highlighted the need to make the best of any situation, citing the innovations brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. Take a listen.
Thank you.
In the last decade, consumer confidence has become a lot more important, not only in Nigeria, but around the world. This is true at both the macro and micro levels. Global economic realities, especially the high inflationary environment in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic and the immense strain it puts on the global supply chain, inflation, technology, haven't driven away consumers interact with the economy. The Nigerian economy is known for its resilience, and the last few years have been a good test of that resilience. And I will tell you this is a country that is blessed with a lot of natural resources, but I keep on telling you, I read, I can't remember one of the newspapers, 1978, said things are getting worse. Then during Abacha regime, I said, oh, it can be better than this. Now we had Obasanjo say, oh, Nigeria has never found it like this. Then Yar'Adua came and said, oh, this is the worst economy. Then Jonathan came to, oh, this is, no, we cannot even stand Jonathan. Then Baba go slow. So the point is this, where do we hand this, or where do we start this? But the point is that we need to now start looking at how we can make the best out of the bad situation. About the trajectory of overall income levels, consumer prices, consumer trends, buoyancy of the economy in general are at the heart of consumer confidence.
And now to our first conversation. We see Nigeria's economic fortunes are closely tied to its oil and gas sector. However, the country's dependence on crude oil exports while lacking adequate refining capacity presents a significant economic challenge. This conversation will analyze the current state of the oil and gas industry with particular focus on refining and production. We'll also look at what to expect when it comes to technological advancements, coming in for the oil and gas industry, because definitely with technological advances, definitely we can get the best of this industry so that we can get more oil production out there, refine more, and actually get affordable petroleum product prices at some point. I'm sure that's what everybody's hoping for at this point. But joining us for this conversation, we have Dr. Engineer Wole Ogunsonya as the chairman of PETAN, and we also have Mr. Innocent Akure as a public secretary chairman, 30th anniversary committee also for PETAN. It's great to have you both on the show today.
Thank you.
Yeah, so a lot definitely happening in this industry. But before we get into the meat of the matter, I want to start with your association first. I know you're about 30 years now, and congratulations on that. And definitely, I'd like to hear from you, sir. So about 3 decades now of the existence of this association, what would you say has been contributed to the oil and gas industry so far?
Yeah, thank you very much. PETAN, the Petroleum Technology Association of Nigeria, is essentially a group of indigenous companies founded in Nigeria, anchored by Nigerians, providing what we call exploration and production services to the oil and gas industry. These services in the past were being provided by multinational companies. So 30 years ago, some brave, wise men came up and come up with the idea of forming the association. These companies, our forebearers that started this 30 years ago, toiled, sweated, and tears and blood to get us to where we are today. Many of us will recollect that we passed a Local Contact Act in 2010, and PETAN has existed 16 years before that, competing in this space that was dominated by the multinational companies. So it's a great, thing for us. It's a great celebration to us that today, with the NOGIC Act that was passed in 2010, we've even expanded the services that Nigerians are producing. Today, we provide well services across all kinds of services in the upstream, midstream, and even in downstream. And to explain this to Nigerians properly, what it means is that the GDP of Nigeria has grown through PETAN efforts in the last 30 years. Those revenues that would have been paid out to multinational companies are now being earned by Nigerians. We employ more Nigerians. PETAN is over 10,000 Nigerians, and we bring in revenue of in the range of $2 billion. You can do that math. All that money would not be here if these brave men that started PETAN didn't do that. And of course, the NOGIC Act that we passed in 2010 to ensure that Nigerians participate in these oil and gas. It will be tough for us to continue to find experts to come and produce our oil and gas. That's the facts. Today, the Western world, especially in Europe, are going for renewable energy. China is big in that. So to find people to come and do this job for us will be more and more difficult. We are 200 million people. We have a lot of engineering schools across the country, both federal and state. And without us creating opportunities like this, those graduates will not have a job at the end of the day. So that's what PETAN represents. We are very glad and we're very proud of what we have contributed to the Nigerian economy and the industry in the last 30 years.
I can imagine. You guys have been quite busy. Yeah. Well, I'll come to you now, Dr. Innocent, because, the issues remain in the oil and gas industry when you're talking about, aged facilities and all of that. So talk to me about some technological advancements, you can speak to that we've seen in the industry so far.
Yeah, okay. If you look at the theme of our anniversary, it is navigating the next. And navigating the next is actually talking about very smart technologies, and I don't want to unbundle that here because that's the myth of our anniversary, and on 13th of December, the details of that will be taken by subject matter specialists. So I'll just allow me.
So we'll keep that one closed.
Just keep it there closed.
But so far though, what have we seen? What would you say?
I mean, my chairman has said it all. I mean, for the last 30 years, it's been improvement upon improvement upon improvement in capacity building, in country capacity building, in human resource development. I mean, most patent companies, in fact, if you're not a proper Nigerian company, you wouldn't be a member of patent in the first instance. So a lot of specialists have been built among us, a lot of capacities have been built, and this is ongoing, and the trend is just to keep moving. So I'm sure if you would be with us on the 13th, when the chairman will introduce Navigating the Next, you get the details and you'll be amazed what we have done this far.
Now, I definitely want to know what's next. At this point, I'm talking about what's next.
Yeah.
Looking at refining in Nigeria, that has been on the burner for the longest time, bringing up conversations. So I want to know how your association is looking at, Nigeria's prospects for refining its own oil. Going forward, we see a couple of refineries coming on stream at this time. I'd like to get your perspective on that. So how is your association seeing all that's playing out in the refining industry in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. I'll answer that question directly, but I need us to understand, what we defined as value chain in the oil and gas industry. The oil and gas industry starts from finding where the oil is through a technique that we call seismic. And then you bring rigs, whether it's on land, swamp, or offshore, to drill that well. That's the value chain. When you drill that well and you encounter the oil and gas, you need to transport that oil and gas to a refinery or to a gas plant or even export it. So there is a value chain within that, the pipelines industry, which is a midstream, or part of our business, handles that. And of course, if you refine the products, which is what you're asking about, the Nigerians can have those fuel refined in country. And if we process the gas, by the way, we have huge abundance of gas in Nigeria. Those gas can go into the power plants. We all know how we're suffering today, the national grid collapsing, not generating enough electricity for Nigerians. So that gas goes into a gas plant to power electricity for Nigerians. And of course, for the use, for domestic use, when we talk about LPG, breaking that gas to that level. So that's the value chain. So all we're saying and we're doing is if Nigeria can keep that value chain in country, if we can ensure from finding the oil, drilling and producing the oil and gas, refining it and processing the oil and gas and using it in country, it's clear to me we'll be top 20 economy in the world. Now, in terms of refining capacity in Nigeria, there has been a lot of gap. This is not something that happens overnight. We have 4 refineries in Nigeria, if I take the stock, by the way. We have the Kaduna refinery, owned by NNPC. We have refinery in Warri, also owned by NNPC. And in Port Harcourt, there are 2 refineries in Port Harcourt. So NNPC and the federal government has 4 refineries. So we've had challenges in the past to get these refineries to work. There is a lot of work being done today by NNPC. I think we're seeing some results. Some of the products will start coming out of Port Harcourt refinery. But the main thing for us today in Nigeria is that our business mogul, Alhaji Dangote, on his own efforts, has established a refinery that if we give enough crude oil to that refinery, the issue of importing refined products into the country will be over. He's established a 650,000 barrels of oil per day refinery in the Lekki axis. So the challenge we have today is to provide him the crude oil that he needs to refine these products. And I think there is a lot of work around that within NNPC and the federal government. They found solution to that. So behind that, with many challenges that we have, is actually to produce enough oil to feed that refinery. So today I'm happy where we are as far as refinery is concerned. There are also independent modular refineries across Niger Delta. There's a number of companies that are doing that work. Smith, have a refinery. The other local E&P companies, these are indigenous oil companies owned by Nigerians that are putting their step forward and establishing these refineries. So I'm comfortable to answer your question where we are in refining capacity. Where I'm not comfortable and where we need to put more effort is how to give more crude oil to these refineries to be able to refine products for us locally. And there is a lot of effort in that. The NUPRC that regulates the upstream had an event 2-3 weeks ago where 1 million barrels of additional oil is being strategized right now with all stakeholders, including the multinational oil producing in Nigeria. So PETAN is in the steering committee. We're able to give advice on how these 1 million barrels can come in. When we get there, in the next 1 or 2 years, I think Nigerians will see a lot of relief in terms of refined products in the country.
And we definitely need a lot of relief, at this time. Dr. Akufwe, talking about most of these refineries getting feedstock, what are you seeing for oil production coming out from Nigeria going into 2025?
I mean, I don't want to repeat what my chairman just said,
right?
Because the whole effort is to improve on production, and all stakeholders are involved. PETAN is involved, other professional bodies like us are involved, and from the regulatory side, I think they've done the best they can, encouraging us to get involved. My chairman will always tell you that our work is to produce the first oil, and we're not resting on our oars at all, that again has to do with building capacities, because you may have a challenge, you don't have the required technology, the required equipment to do that. But in PETAN alone, there is no challenge of such that we're not able to take on, So going to next year, I think, I'm sure, my chairman, we could do better than 1 million additional barrels.
Yes.
Well, that would definitely be needed, because we need more revenue from this resource at this point. But, still talking about local content, how would you describe the youth's perception of this industry? Do you think Nigerian youths are keen on coming into the oil and gas industry? What are you seeing? They are, and we're creating the appropriate opportunities for them. I'm sure my chairman will talk about the internship we have in collaboration with Shell and NCDMB, where young graduates are posted to PETAN companies to be, tutored and put through on various operational methods. So at the end of the day, after 2 years, these guys, even if they're not retained by the PETAN company, most times they are retained. If they are not retained, at least they have the requisite experience to move on to other companies and help the country to grow. So it's been on. Initially, we started with Shell. Now NCDB got involved, and other companies like Chevron has also indicated interest to run that. So you can imagine the number of youths. We're looking at about 100 youths, young engineers, young professionals who are going to join for next year, 2024, 2025. 2026 as it is, because it's 2 years now. So I want you to just imagine that every 2 years, just between PETAN, Shell, and NCDB, we have about 100 young graduates, interned among our facilities. And other companies are queuing in. So manpower is being developed, human resources are being developed, and that's what PETAN want to see. That's our role in seeing that the youths are properly trained, given the necessary exposure, to making the industry a much efficient one. Right, and talking about efficiency, Dr. Ogunsoya, there's also that need for transparency, in the industry, and I believe that can help, drive the development we're looking for in the oil and gas industry. So, what are you seeing? Are you seeing this industry getting more transparent, and with the regulators and the companies that handle this very important oil and gas industry in Nigeria?
Definitely, in any business, not just in oil and gas, transparency, rule of law, code of conduct are essential, because when you're doing business, essentially what you're doing is, of course, you have your employees, you have your clients, you have the regulators, and of course, in our own industry, we have the government. So we are relying on what we agreed, whether it's a contract, whether it's a process of awarding a contract, whether it's a regulation, that those regulations will stay the way they're supposed to stay. And we will go plan our business accordingly with an assumption of ABC of what is expected of us. So if anything changes in that aspect, then it will disrupt the business. So we are seeing, of course, a lot of transparency. NNPC has done, they've been doing this for probably more than 10 years. There is a body in NNPC that is called NIPEX. This is a platform where we all go to, bid for work. Essentially, when you're talking of transparency, is to quantify the works that needs to be done and ensure that those work are awarded to the companies that have the capacity to do that one. So that's what NIPEX does. So it's a good platform. Even non-PETAM members subscribe to it. Most of the work that needs to be done in the oil and gas industry goes through this platform. And we believe in that, platform for transparency, to answer your question. And PETAN is also in the governing board of NIPEX. And that's part of some of the things when we talk about this great association, that we are key in all the areas of getting Nigeria to produce. Not everything is rosy. In the past, we've had issues of portfolio companies, essentially people that are not qualified to do the work, eroding that space. But I think the regulators are tightening that up. In PETAN, one of the things we're doing is that we are partnering with NCDMB to set up what we call PETAN Seal of Quality. We were in Bayelsa just last week, reiterating that between us and NCDMB, that look, if you want to say you can provide certain services, you are qualified to do certain things in the industry, we need to measure you. In this process, we are bringing an international body, Bureau Veritas, to join us so that this will be very transparent. Essentially, what we're saying is, if you say you can do ABC, we want to come and see the equipment that you use to do that ABC. We want to see your capacity. We want to look at your training program. We want to look at, the employees that you have to ensure that, and your maintenance system. In our industry, maintenance is a big thing. So we want to see that for you to be approved and qualified to do that job. So this is a process to reduce portfolio company. The country loses a lot. And it costs more. There has been a lot of emphasis on cost of production in Nigeria, but when you go down below, you realize that it's not actually the service company that carries out the work that caused that. The revenue that comes to us as service company, whether you are a PETA member, an indigenous company, or a multinational company, is pretty straightforward. It's international pricing. We have an idea of what a rate costs. We have an idea what the services cost. Is the layers that are created through midwifing and portfolio companies are discussing this. So in PETAN, we're very proactive about this, not just talking about it. The NCDMD, who regulates local content, we're working with them to ensure that qualified Nigerian businesses, qualified Nigerian organizations are the ones that are given the right opportunity for the sake of the country, so that we don't waste cost in producing this oil and gas.
Right, and definitely so much to unpack there, and I want to believe a lot to look out for your association, going into 2025. But we've run out of time.
No, we can't. We can't run out of time because we expect our BOT chairman to talk to us. I think we expect you to shoot that.
Yeah, that will come up at some point. But definitely, we'll definitely look at that. But thank you so much.
Just as a last message, the 30th anniversary is coming up.
Yes.
On Friday. In fact, we start on Thursday with a golf tournament. Who is who in the oil and gas industry will be there to celebrate this. It's something that we felt that Nigerians should be proud of, that we have an organization, we have indigenous companies that's as good as any company in the world. Today, our members are working in the Middle East. Our members are working in Asia. We have a PETAN company providing same services they develop in Nigeria, in India. and across sub-Saharan Africa, in Mozambique, in Uganda, are members that started in this country. We're exporting this local content out to make sure that we're continuing to deliver value to Nigeria.
And we'll definitely keep looking out for that. Thank you so much for coming. That was Engineer Wole Ogunsoya, Chairman, PETAN, and Engineer Dr. Innocent Koevre, Public Secretary and Chairman, 30th Anniversary Committee for PETAN. Thank you both for coming on.
Thank you.
I wish you the very best.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a break now. When we come back, we head straight to the markets, find out which markets are still rallying and which ones are taking a pause at this time. That's in a moment. Just stay with us. Welcome back. So time to get a check on what's playing out with most of the markets we track, and definitely December, as I say, is moving on quite fast. At this point, we'll soon be getting to the midweek of December. So, but we'll have an idea that what's playing out with the local markets that we track and foreign markets. Great to have you on here today. It's another trading day right here in Lagos, Nigeria.
Yeah, Ladi, I don't know whether you've been looking at the calendar. How many days are left in 2024?
Oh my goodness. Quite a few.
No, when you count down to 2025, I am doing that countdown. So
I think are you already in 2025?
Already, I'm counting down. So
right.
I'm sure the market is also counting down because year to date is still in positive territory. Yes, last week we were at about 0.72%, which is the month to date so far for December. But if you look at your board there, 0.03% at intraday. This was the last track. And of course, let's also mention that the stock market had gained in the first week of December more than 318 billion naira, which comes shortly after some industrials. It was actually a very positive sectoral performance for the market.
Yeah, quite positive for last week.
Exactly. Yeah, but we'll be talking more about that, and then so let's get straight on into the market. Starting first on the African continent, we have also mentioned earlier Nigeria's stock market. Well, it's still been able to retain that 98,000 points, which it got to at the close of Friday's trading session. But so far, the last track that we had a couple of just about an hour ago, where the market was down by 0.03%, that number is still moving before the closing bell on the domestic bourse. And for the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, 0.43% at intraday, 87,000. It has gone to that 87,000 and almost making its way into the 88,000 points. Well, we'll look out for how that will close for Monday. And for the other two markets on the African continent, we see that it was only the NGX ASI that was in the red, but all the other markets, intraday, Egypt's stock exchange was up by 0.811%, and the Nairobi Stock Exchange All-Share Index 0.79% for the close of Friday's trading session. So that's it for the market. Before we now have the financial market outlook for the week. So if we can have that on the board there, what to expect from Nigeria's financial markets. First of all, this is December, and of course we've been talking about the bonds issuance. Bonds issuance has been quite a mixed picture, but also at the same time very strong. But the market is expected to release, the Debt Management Office is expected to release the December FGM bond auction calendar. Okay, Ladi, I think you have some message for me.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Anita, but we'll get back to expectations there. But we're going to join a live coverage now. The theme of the event is design and construction of 10 staff quarters for the Nigerian Law School in Buhari Area Council. We'll be joining that on DSTV, but this continues on all other platforms. Right, so DMO to release December FGM bond auction calendar. Definitely looking forward to that.
And then at the same time, we also expect that on Wednesday this week, that's the central bank will be holding a Nigerian Treasury Bills Primary Market Auction. That's what they call the NTB PMA, the last one for the year. And then we're about 275.71 billion now worth of maturities. That's for the bills will be on offer. At the same time, the market is also anticipating more than 125 billion worth of inflows from over maturity to further support system liquidity within Nigeria's financial markets. And the other sides of expectations for this week, FX, we'll be talking FX since last week that we saw that Eurobond issuance, very, very strong numbers that came in for, and that also buoyed the country's foreign exchange reserves level up to about $40.3 billion for the close of that last week. And then at the same time, we also saw Naira making very strong gains on the two official markets, both the NAFEX and the NFEM. The Naira is expected to further strengthen, and that's because of that the FMs that was launched by the central bank sometime almost about 2 weeks ago. So that is expected to strengthen the country's local currency, which is at some point we're expecting it to go to about 1,005 or 1,004. Okay, so now let's move into the deeper side of the market, and that's the domestic stock market. Well, we'll be having Abiodun Adedotun, equity trader and analyst with FBM Quest, to tell us more details about the domestic stock market. Thank you for joining us, Abiodun. Hello, Abiodun, can you hear us? Okay, Abiodun, if you can hear us, can you kindly unmute your mic? Hello, Abiodun, can you hear us, please? Okay, I think we seem to be having some technical challenges with Abiodun's Zoom audio there. But if we're able to get back to him, we'll get back to him. But now let's talk about the Middle Eastern market. Just over the weekend, just yesterday, we saw that announcement over the news wires everywhere about the ousting of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and the Assad family, which have ruled Syria for about 50 years. But that rule has come to an end after the rebel advanced over the weekend and reached the city's capital, Damascus, and has put an end. But how are the markets reacting, particularly in the Middle East? The Middle East is quite of a mixed picture there, because we think at some point there's uncertainty. Oil prices have risen in reaction to that, the ouster, because he's fled to Moscow to seek asylum there. But the markets on the United Arab Emirates, the two markets there, the Dubai and the Abu Dhabi, were down at intraday trading session, 0.34% for the Dubai and 0.07% for the Abu Dhabi index. But the other two sides of the market within the region, we see the Saudi Arabia and the Qatari Stock Exchange up 0.85% for the Tadawul and the Qatari SE, 0.58%, more than 0.5% gain for that market at intraday. And for the US markets, we see the stock futures falling slightly after the S&P 500 had advanced for a third trading session. But for the opening bell, ahead of the opening bell for Monday, all the averages here are in the red, and they're also anticipating a key inflation data which is due out this week. Last week we saw the employment numbers out of the US coming in stronger than expected. So, and that is one of the reasons why the market has been, at the same time we saw last week that the Dow Jones Industrial Average, it wasn't able to sustain that 45,000 level, which it had crossed for the very first time sometime last week. But that number has gone almost half of it has been erased. No thanks to profit taking by investors there. But so far, the US markets are in the gain territory. And they're still talking about the global markets. We expected that rates meeting, which is the final rate decision meeting for major markets, major countries. The Bank of Canada, the European Central Bank, the Bank of England, the Federal Reserves, and the Bank of Japan. So,
right.
Like we look
so much to look out for
exactly
this week.
How this will affect all the bourses,
right,
including Nigeria.
Right. We'll definitely see if that's priced in already at some point with major markets that we track. But we'll check it out. Thank you so much, Anita, for giving us the details of what's playing out with most of those markets that we track. Well, let's take it on to Juliana now. Great to have you, Juliana. So we see Syrian rebels announced on state TV that they've ousted President al-Assad, eliminating a 50-year family dynasty. Talk to me, Juliana. What are reactions coming out from the UK?
Yes, good afternoon, Laddie. It's been a really interesting weekend. As you say, there's been a significant shift in the Syrian regime. We know that former president, we could call him the ousted president, Assad, appears to have taken a political asylum in Russia, as to be expected. There's a lot of innuendo coming out of Moscow. Is he there? Isn't he there? We believe he is there. In fact, in Moscow right now, there is a Syrian flag flying. And this is going to be critical in terms of what happens with the future of Syria. And as to be expected, the UK are pretty much in the diplomatic centre of this new change in regime. I think it's fair to say, though, again, you've got to be so cautious, because since the Syrian crisis began in 2015, the world has changed. The dynamics have changed. And I think journalists are now very, very careful about what information they repeat, because, of course, it does cause implosions. But from what I've seen, there is a significant amount of Syrians that are residing in the UK, currently celebrating on the streets of London. You'll remember that at the start of the war, the crisis in Syria triggered the biggest humanitarian impact that we had seen since the end of World War II. A lot of the issues we have in Brexit, a lot of the terrorism issues that we've had across Europe came and started because of this war. I think the UK, as part of a resettlement scheme, housed 20,000 Syrian refugees within its borders. And they want to go home, right? They want to go back. They feel that the end of the Assad regime could spell the beginning of a new future. But of course, again, we've got to be cautious. I don't think, taking out one leader and potentially putting them in the hands of rebels is going to solve the issue overnight. But we have heard from Sir Keir Starmer, the UK Prime Minister. He was on camera yesterday, as to be expected. Him alongside his Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, are monitoring this situation very carefully. We also heard, too, from President Joe Biden, who appeared to be taking credit for the ousting of Assad. But then we do know that, of course, power is changing hands in America, too. And, there were really shocking scenes that we all saw around the world of ISIS, and the beheadings and the brutality and the use of chemical weapons. So, this is a very cautious situation. Within the next 24 to 48 hours, we will find out whether or not the UK determine this new rebel group as terrorists and whether or not it will be safe. I think the UK have already contributed over £3.8 billion to various Syrian charities. It's cost a lot of money. Again, since that happened, so much has changed, including COVID and several wars that are still raging, not only in the Middle East and in Europe. But yes, the UK definitely has a critical stake in this ongoing dynamic. But I think the mood music from Britain at the moment is relief. They do feel as if, this regime has finally come to an end. But again, Russia also holding a critical part. So the days and nights are rolling into one. But of course, we're monitoring this very closely.
We're looking out for more updates. Definitely a developing story there. But thank you so much, Juliana, for breaking it down for us.
Thank you, Laddie.
All right, it's time to get an outlook for AI adoption in Nigeria. Definitely, we hear all the buzz about AI, machine learning, and all of that. What can we expect in sometime in 2025? And join us for that conversation. We have Zora Hope, is a founder, and he's a founder of eChuku AI. Join us right here in the studio. It's great to have you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ladi.
Yeah, so much talk about AI. Everyone says AI can do this, do that, and I'm beginning to see some people are getting really, they depend a lot right now on artificial intelligence. Talk to me about the state of adoption in 2024 from your viewpoint in Nigeria and what you're seeing for 2025.
Well, AI is a thing now. And if we look at the global system, they have adopted AI, and the adoption is quite very interesting. The number of people are keen into AI. different industries are buying into AI as well. And Nigeria is not left out in this. And Nigeria is positioning itself as the giant of Africa. As a giant of Africa, is positioning itself as one of the leader in this industry. I think, to me, looking at the trend in Nigeria, I think AI it's really going to be a big thing 2025. Because if we look at the level of people who are craving for changes, businesses are looking for ways to be more efficient and to increase their revenue. And therefore, AI is bringing in the solution to that, and their business are buying into it. People want to be more creative, and AI is giving them that leverage, I think.
Right.
Nigeria
and I know you have developed an AI solution at this point. Talk to me about how hard or easy it is to set up AI or develop an AI product.
Well, it's not an easy task looking at we here, Africans, and Nigeria particularly. There are systems that should be put in place to help like startup like us that wants to build solution. But I think building AI solution, in my experience, it's really a very I don't know.
You have to be a nerd to actually go into something like this, because I'm imagining, what do you put together to create an artificial intelligence solution?
Yes, you really have to. It's actually a programming system, so you have to be techie at first. Then you also have to understand the system. That's one important thing. You need to understand the system. And then you need to understand what is involved to bring that to reality. It's more about, first of all, if you're a programmer, I think what is more important is you have a target, what you want to achieve at the end of the day, and then the rest is coding.
Right, and what are you seeing that artificial intelligence or AI would be able to do, going forward, that's not doing right now?
Well, I think artificial intelligence is going to do more than what it is. In fact, Mr. Ladi, I want to take you back. AI has been in existence for some time now. And, the level in which it was operating is not the same as today. You see, Google is also an AI engine because when you search query there, it automatically gives you response based on what you are asking for. So it understands what you are requesting. But today you're seeing some technology coming up on board, like the one we just launched, Ichku AI, coming on board to unravel other possibilities that AI can do. And I think the future for AI, I think it's going to be a very big thing in the market, in the sense that the possibility is endless. Just imagine it. I think that's the future of AI. So
whatever I can imagine could be the future of AI at this point. And I'm wondering, at some point, will AI be able to, that's talking about the markets at this time, will AI be able to tell me what asset class to buy, and that will actually be profitable? Do you see that coming?
Sorry,
that's artificial intelligence. Will it be able to tell me, you can buy this stock or this? That's looking at markets, generally. Do you think AI will be able to tell me, buy this stock, it's going to go up in so time, and you make profit? Is that coming?
Well, in that regard, I think I would say a yes and a no. First, a yes in the sense that already we are having, like in my platform, as much data you give to the solution, to the AI, it will be able to analyze those data and give you a response, a decision. And those decisions is just like you having a conversation with someone, and then the person is able to tell you, okay, based on what you told me, I think this is the way forward. So sometimes what I'm saying may not be correct, but to an extent, it is correct. So I think in that way, I said yes to it.
All right, I'll definitely be looking out for that. Thank you so much. It was great having you at Zolo Hope,
Yes,
founder Ichukwu
AI, yes, sir.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right, so let's get a check on what's happening with Europe now. As the world is going more digital, pretty much all facts of life, learning has to keep up with that trend. In Germany, however, digitalization in schools has been a surprisingly contentious problem. Now the government found an agreement on how to lead students into a more digital world. Let's have Lars Holter now with DW. Great to have you, Lars. So what can you tell us about this issue here? What's the latest on the deal?
Thanks for having me, Ladi. So it's called the Digital Pact 2.0. 2.0, obviously, because there was initially a 1.0, the original plan to get schools to be more digital. Scratchy old chalkboards were replaced by whiteboards and screens. Many schools got laptops and tablets for all their students. Teachers took extra classes to train for new hardware, software, and even new teaching methods. Then, of course, money ran out. The government had invested 6.5 billion euros, with 90% being paid by the federal government and 10% by the state and local governments. All that money was invested well. If you ask pretty much anyone in the field, most of it went into hardware, lots into networks, Wi-Fi and such. And over the years, I think I must have heard kids from every German state being interviewed at some point about what changed for them, and all being excited about the new learning tools and how it prepares them for a digital world. So it's been pretty clear for a while that this digital pact would have to be renewed.
All right, so why has there been so much a long, heated debate about it?
Well, as so often, it's about two things: who is going to pay and who's going to decide where all the money is going. And to be totally honest, it sounds such a waste of time. The question whether the federal government pays more or the state government pays more is of literally no relevance to taxpayers anyway. Now it seems Berlin will pay a bit less, and the state governments will pay a bit more. One problem, however, the agreement over the Digital Pact 2.0 was reached at a time when we're heading into snap elections. And the agreement as it was reached is apparently not binding to a newly elected government. That means that 2 years now of talking about this, 2 years of working on compromises and finding another 5 billion euros to invest might, in a worst case scenario, not have led to more than a handshake agreement and another round of negotiations once we have a new government in place. So I guess let's just hope that whoever wins the upcoming elections will simply understand that what's in this latest agreement is pretty good and that it's important to act on it as soon as possible.
All right, what are investors looking at in today's markets?
Well, Monday is always a good day to have a good look around. I'm pretty sure that over the weekend, many investors were calculating their recent profits as the DAX in Frankfurt topped one record high after another. Many are, in fact, wondering if this trend can go on much longer. And, well, many are very skeptical. There are just too many bad news around the economy right now, with Germany still being in political limbo too, heading into those snap elections I just mentioned. We're also getting some fresh numbers out of Paris today. It looks like the French have been amassing quite a deficit and that their debt level is raising some eyebrows. So there's a good chance that after recent gains, investors will be a bit more cautious heading into the new week. Then again, we're still hearing more about more interest rate cuts coming out of the US, and that means that optimists will also have something to cling to.
All right, thank you so much, Lars.
Thank you, Ladi.
All right, now let's get a check on what's playing out with other African economies that we track. We see Egypt has made substantial strides in reducing its unemployment rate, which now stands at about 5.6%, a significant decline compared to higher levels of a decade ago. That's according to the Prime Minister there. Said he noted that the government initiated a policy shift 2 years ago to reduce the state's role in the economy and bolster the private sector to foster fair competition. This strategic shift has been essential for driving economic growth and job creation. He added that Egypt is actively managing population growth and creating new opportunities, signaling that the country's economy is poised for continued expansion. And still, in Egypt, Egypt's gold reserves, a key component of its national reserves, fell by 3.38% in November to about $10 billion from $11.15 billion in October, and that's according to latest data from the Central Bank of Egypt. Meanwhile, the value of foreign currencies within the reserves, that rose modestly, reaching $36 billion in November compared to about $35.49 billion in October. That's like a monthly increase of 1.8%. Despite a dip in gold reserves, Egypt's overall net foreign exchange reserves edged up about $46.95 billion by the end of November, up from $46.94 billion in October, marking a marginal growth of about 0.02%, about 2 basis points. And Zambia and France have signed a bilateral debt restructuring agreement, a key step in protracted process that started when the Southern African nation defaulted 4 years ago. The deal is part of Zambia's efforts to revamp about $13 billion in external debt after it became the first African nation to default during the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. The deal with France is the first that Zambia signed with official bilateral creditors that range from China to Saudi Arabia and India. It's also the first of its kind under the Group of 20's so-called Common Framework Guidelines from debt restructuring, a process that comes under criticism for being too slow as it seeks to bring together diverse creditor groups. All right, now let's get a check on what's playing out in the crypto market now. If we look at Coin 360, let's see the color on the screen. We know it's been quite a rally for the crypto market so far. We see it's mostly red on the screen right now, with Bitcoin losing that 100,000 level. Let's see if it's going to make another comeback. Now we have a lot of comeback presidents at this point. Ethereum, 2.11% down, $3,880. And we see the likes of Cardano, deep red there. It's had quite a run from about 30 cents to about $1.30. Let's look at the top cryptocurrencies that we track now, the sentiment in the market. How are investors feeling? Are they still greedy? We know it's been a very, very greedy market, but it's pulled back. It did top at about 94 points. That's if you're looking at Fear Greed Index, it's at 78 now, still extremely greedy. So let's see if it moves further away from extreme greed at this point. Let's bring in Shehu Dania now, as the CEO, Alpha Geek Technologies. Great to have you, Shehu.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Shehu. So it's a brand new trading week, and we're seeing full-on red in the market. Some would say there's blood on the street right now, but Bitcoin is still quite close to 100.
Depends on how you look at it.
Exactly.
It's profit taking for some people.
Right.
Some people have taken profits and they are smiling, and there are some other people see it as a buy opportunity. So a new buy window has been opened for people to reinvest.
Right, and talking about open a new buy window, opening at this time. When you look at the risk-reward ratio at this point, do you think those trying to come in at this time, is it not too high?
No, it's never too high. It's never too high. It's always the best time to to invest is probably yesterday, and the new best time will be today. So it's never too high, because if you look at predictions, people are looking at the crypto market will probably get into hundreds of millions. We can see the likes of Michael Saylor writing to the U.S. government, asking them to sell their gold reserves and use it to buy Bitcoin. Same way we saw in the news that Amazon shareholders are also asking for some of their portfolio to be, put in Bitcoin. So, of course, we don't know if they will yield to that. And over this weekend and the week, like last week, going into the weekend, we saw an influx of over $9 billion in the Bitcoin ETFs. So I think there's so many things that can come up that can drive the prices further up. But of course, it's not any financial advice. There's so much risk also associated with it. But I think we were here saying the same thing probably about 7 years ago when Bitcoin hit 15,000 for the first time, saying, well, that seems like one of the highest points it would ever get to. But then here we are talking 100K. So everyone can do the analysis. I can also look into other altcoins and say, but evidently Bitcoin is the father of all of them, and Bitcoin would always be around.
Right, and definitely, looking at the market, so far, it was mostly about the institutional investors, but now we're seeing country level advice at this point, talking about holding Bitcoin as a reserve currency, that has a lot of risk to it, right?
Yes, definitely. There's risk to it for country and for people, but it's about the same kind of risk that we will associate with any other investments. If the country was supposed to be investing, say probably like third world countries that actually invest a lot in foreign currencies, they see how it affects their own local currency. But let's look at it on the sovereign side of things. Investing in Bitcoin as a country is a power play. So nobody wants to be left out of that power play. The countries want to be in somewhat control. So if you look at it, at the top 3 countries that have, the highest hash rates, that have people who are mining Bitcoins in their country, you have the United States, you have China, I think Russia. So those countries that are owning Bitcoin, which is where it seems that the future is would actually put them in a position of power. And people would always, look to them if and when Bitcoin then becomes, the go-to global currency, they will not be found wanting.
Right. And do you think at some point, do we already have miners in Nigeria mining Bitcoin?
Yeah, we have people who are mining on the local. I think probably minor scale, on a small scale. We have some people who are also mining on large scale. Probably they are contributing their hash into a larger mining pool out there. But I know the current Director General of the Security and Exchange Commission has spoken, around these things. Definitely for Nigeria to be about putting up enabling laws and policies in place that would actually help people to mine. And some downsides to mining in Nigeria will be the fact that our temperature, the climate is extremely warm, so you definitely need a lot of cooling, as opposed to countries like Russia and Iceland and the rest of that. But what we know for a fact in Nigeria is that we have a lot of stranded power, and we have a lot of gas that's being flared that can actually be converted into electrical energy, and then in turn used to mine Bitcoin, which definitely become digital energy,
right?
Which is sort of like a pro for the country.
So I guess if you're in Band A, don't try to mine Bitcoin at this point.
Yeah, not in your house.
Maybe somewhere else. Maybe Band D or something. Thank you so much, Shehu Daniel. It was great having you.
All right, thank you. It's a pleasure.
All righty then. So that's how the crypto market is looking. We're seeing some profit taking right there. Major markets that we track at this point. So much to look out for this week. What's going to drive sentiment? We'll definitely give you all of that detail right here. Thank you for watching. I'm Ladi Williams from me and the team right here at Channels HQ. It's bye for now.